It is, yeah, it's about 1:15.
Okay.
Started
this morning when?
Got a little bit of a late start. Probably got out here about 10:30. There's George.
Yeah, probably so out here.
Yeah. Tooled all the way up to Jackfish. Had a little bit of problems with the motor, which are nothing compared to the end of the night. We
caught a big 27-inch northern.
Yes, we did. He did.
And we went for some meat.
Meat. We fished with
so
meat.
we didn't have to go just tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, ting, 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 ting.
Ting, ting, ting.
Yeah.
So we got us some meat.
Then I went to pull the starter.
And the rope flies out.
That happened.
And then we find some bad engineering on a motor because we know multipliers won't get these bolts off.
So then we
had to use the trolling motor. And we had to motor, several hundred yards to a peninsula.
Yes.
Hit the beach. And go check out a...
break into a cabin.
Yep, into a outfitter's cabin. So we had to go back to the boat, find tools, take trim off, and get through a screen window to get the window open. And then Jason had to get on a 55-gallon drum gas barrel and crawl through the stinking window to find a crescent wrench that we saw sitting on the counter. So, from there, we're all excited. We can get this done. We run back to the boat. Matter of fact, we found 2 crescent wrenches. But the way this stupid motor is built, Mercury engineering at its finest, we end up, the crescent wrenches won't work. We got the cover off. We got the top shield off. Now we can't reach the recoil. So now we go back, and our only option is to break into a shed. Jason's scrounging for kitchen utensils. Anything we can find that might possibly be used as a tool to get some nuts loose when we really need a socket set. So now we go to the four-wheeler, and we lift up the seat and we find a little storage compartment. And we find kind of like a weed eater wrench and a few other things in there. So we take it back. Long story short, probably another half hour, 45 minutes to get the nuts loose, just to get the housing off so we could get to the recoil starter. We think, and then we flagged some help down. Some really nice folks came over to help us out. They loaned us a couple tools. We finally got everything loose. So we go to fire up the motor, and it fired better than it has the whole trip on the first couple cranks, but it would never keep running. And Jason, how many guesstimates of cranking did you do up there while I laughed at you?
80.
At least 80. And then Mr. McTavish, or what, I can't think of the name, Ron.
Yeah.
How many times do you think he cranked from the water? He got in his shorts and come over there and waited.
25, 30.
Yeah. In the meantime, I go leave a note at the cabin and my business card and saying, we're sorry for breaking in. And you can call us, but this was the problem that we had.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
And I put everything back the best I could, but I didn't have a hammer to put the screen back in place with trim. So anyway, we get going and we can't get the motor fired up. So now he tows us all the way from Upper Jackfish, all the way down through the chute, all the way halfway back, and then he decides he's got to have more gas. So we leave Jason out there in the lake. Plus, by the way, Jason's fishing half the way back as we're being towed. And he loses 150 yards of spider wire in his big Fire Tiger lure. He's all upset about that. And then we have to cut him loose, and we have to run to Ron's cabin to get more gas before we run out, because he's got a 4-stroke and all we have is the 2. So we get back there, and she's able to call Steve at the cabin and let him know where we're at, because I'm supposed to do devotions tonight, as far as I know. And we know that the boat, the portage closes at 8. So we get back to Jason, we get hold of Steve, give him word, so they're going to have someone there at 8 o'clock to help us if we can get here. So now we start motoring in. We go through all the Rocky River, and Ron's averaging 8 miles an hour. But we go at least about an hour, an hour and a half. And we got, it looks like major lightning and storm coming in. So we get down to, I think it's Despair, or whatever lake and marsh that is down in there, before we get the river to head the final jaunt out. And Ron and his wife are getting really nervous about all this lightning. It doesn't look good. They get real quiet. And finally they make the decision to cut us loose down by the floating bogs at the entrance of what we know as the river there. So now we start up the trolling motor, and we're hoping and praying that we have enough juice to make it up the river.
And beat the storm.
And beat the storm. Lightning going off and all this. So now we get, we make it around the bend and part way out the river, and now the storm's hitting a little worse. We don't have enough power. And so we get the dip net out to paddle with, but we still get blown across into the bog, into the marsh where we don't want to be. So we paddle like crazy and finally get to the other side of the river, the mouth of this bay. And it is just swamp and everything else. We can't find a good spot. I fall in the water as I'm pulling the boat, so I'm 3/4 the way soaked. The storm lets up a little bit, so we decide let's paddle and troll any juice we have. And we got to this island and we cut poles. Fought skeeters and cut poles to try to use as paddles or push poles. And we do that. We get about 4 of them. We get back in the boat, and Jason makes a, jerry-rigged paddle.
Duct tape,
and
tree limbs.
Tree limbs, and I've got a great big pole, and we're paddling and pushing. And it's dark. We're trying to find our way, and we're not finding the entrance to the river at the other side of the bay. We missed it just by a little bit. So we wasted time there and effort and paddling. We finally find the entrance to the river, and we come a few hundred yards up, and we realize that it's 1:15 in the morning. We're tired. We got a long ways to go yet. We know the portage doesn't open till 8 in the morning. We're hoping somebody is nice and comes in the morning willing to tow us back to the portage. Where on the other side, we've been informed by Steve that there's a boat waiting for us. So now I've gotten comfy. I got a nest in a bunch of northern slime and sucker minnow juice, laying at the bottom of the boat trying to get comfy, and we're going to try and sleep a little bit. And so we'll continue the saga in the morning, but this is our adventure so far.
There it is.
Any other commentary, Jason?
1:30 in the morning. The storm has passed, and that is bright. And
it is a beautiful night now.
Now it's beautiful.
So we're anchored in the middle of the river to get away from the skeeters.
Middle of the river, and we're going to try to catch some shut-eye and hope that somebody comes by in the morning and saves us from paddling with tree branches for the rest of the way.
Another half mile to a mile.
Yep. So
we did have a tremendous meal back at the island. We sat in the boat, and we had what do we have? We had Cliff Bars.
Mm-hmm. Smoked trout.
Some smoked trout that we stole from Steve's. Maybe he's found us out. I don't know, but man, it was good.
Some plums. Candy.
And some plums. We had a jug of water, and we finished it off with some mini candy bars. It was like manna from heaven tonight.
This is living right here. We know how to do it. Bear Grylls got nothing on us.
That's exactly right. So we'll see you in the morning. And we have not been drinking. Just water.
Oh, come on. Won't stop.